everyone. Sorry, I messed up my initial live time. I said 3 a.m. PST instead of like 3 p.m. PST. So I know a lot of people were like, "Where are you at?" Like I saw a message this morning being like, "When's it gonna start, bro?" And I was like, "Wait, what? What happened?" But we're here for another State of Avatar Legends. It's a new live stream that I'm doing every month now, bringing in other Avatar YouTubers onto the channel just to talk, like literally just a laid back conversation about what happened in the last month of Avatar and just getting people's thoughts and things like that. Today I have with me Brady. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brady, and on YouTube, again, you can just call me Brady, or it's also at Avatar_Brady with like the YouTube handles and on all the socials. So I make like Avatar shorts primarily.
And then we've got Maya in the house. Introduce yourself.
What up? I'm Matt CMG. I make videos on obviously Avatar, but also other things. Comedy stuff. You know, it's a vibe.
Yeah, I was actually talking about you earlier and being like, yeah, you're totally like a vibe. I remember you specifically because I found you from your Korra video. It was one of the defending video. Oh no, you were going against the Legend of Korra video thing. You were like debunking it or whatever it was.
I've done like I think 2 of those, and I don't know how they blew up, but now I'm known as that guy. So cool.
Yeah, that guy. And then also we've got from Finalysis, Callan. Callan, go say what's up. Although a lot of people know you already here. Uh-oh, you are muted currently. All right, while he unmutes himself. So guys, this month, pretty okay. It was a pretty good. I mean, still nothing like, you know, we didn't get an official announcement for the Last Airbender live action yet. Still just rumor-based stuff, but I mean, still like enough to like chew on. Anything that you guys had this last month that like stood out for you?
Well, I mean, isn't the new RPG coming out this at the end of the month?
At some point. So they told me that it was supposed to come out at some point soon, but it keeps getting like pushed back, and it's like such a it's a challenging time, I would say, for whatever's going on for that game studio. But yes, Avatar Generations is it's a new kind of like role-playing game, also story-based, that is coming out. I got to play the intro to it a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or something like that. And people are calling it a gacha game, which I never heard of before. Oh wait, Callan, is your mic back on? Oh no, you are muted still. Maybe go in, come back out or something. Hold on, let's see. Mute, mic, unmute. Talk now. I just unmuted you. No, yeah, you're still muted.
Testing.
Oh yeah, there it is. I don't know what you did. Oh wait, no, then it went away.
Apologies, sorry, I'm at
now it's back.
not my usual setup. So I've got you on the webcam. I'm hoping the voice is good enough.
All right, you're good now. All right, go ahead and intro yourself now because we can hear you.
My usual background. Yeah, sorry, Callan from Finalysis, as Antoine described earlier. I do general discussions on all things fandom, basically, including Avatar, which I'm a massive fan. But yeah, excited to be here. Sorry for late. I was trying to get everything set up on this not my PC.
Wait, is this your new place, by the way?
No. This is just a friend's house. I have not currently got access to my own setup at the moment, so Battle Station is packed up and ready for moving. So.
Oh yeah, where's everyone from? If everyone's okay with saying it, does anyone want to say it? Because, you know, obviously we have Count from UK. I'm from LA, California. I don't know if you guys are okay.
I'm from California.
Oh, okay.
We're on the East Coast, Montana, Connecticut. So.
Oh, okay. All right. I remember that one because Connect I Cut was where our teachers always told us how to like call that one, you know. Really quick, I want to say thank you, Charlie Spur, for the $2. You have failed me for the last time, Antoine. Wait, what did I do? Charlie, tell me what I did. I don't know what I did. Sorry. But the game. It has like some story elements in there. Stuff that I still don't know officially if it's canon or not, the story, because none of it so far that I've played through has conflicted with the show. But it's been stuff like, you know, them meeting with pirates or villagers and that sort of thing in between their adventures, which is kind of works for, you know, that first book of, or really all of Last Airbender, because they're kind of doing a journey. So that you could fill in the gaps. Like we've had that with the comics, have filled in those gaps before. novel work that we've had with the original series has had that. But have you guys seen Avatar Generations? Have looked at it at all?
Sorry to interrupt. The guys are asking to turn the music down in the comments.
Oh yes, let me do that now. But yeah, has anyone seen or heard of Generations or have looked into it at all?
Well, I mostly just saw it because of your channel, your video on it. But
because there isn't really much on it. That's actually very true.
I was going to say, I've been checked out of it for the most part just because we haven't had a massive wave of information yet. Which, to be fair, is me with Avatar in general at the moment. I'm kind of just waiting for it all to just come out and get it as it comes. But particularly for Generations, like I said, there hasn't been that much information. It's been pretty quiet on the details from what I've seen. Unless I'm just completely missing everything anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean that's very valid. I think they only had an official trailer on the Last Airbender YouTube, and that was just like a general trailer. But no one's, except for the people, I think Airspeed Prime and myself, we both got gameplay footage that we were able to play through. But that's like it. Yeah, that's really all it's had so far, and we don't even know what the release date for it is. Like it literally could just drop like in the next hour. It's literally, it could be like that. Like that's the situation that the game is in. But
what are you thinking of the game at the moment in its current state? Because it's not really my sort of thing, to be honest, that style. But for those who
it's not my kind of game, is what I'll say. Is that I'm not typically, because it's very similar to Galaxy of Heroes, the Star Wars game, where you get your characters and you can create little battle situations. There's a story-based one where obviously you have to play via the story, but then there's like an arena where you could have like Zuko in your party, like season 1 Zuko in your party along with Katara or like Iroh or some random spearmen that you find in the game, and then you just face off against enemies, but it works well in that how like RPGs usually have like the Pokemon, you have like weaknesses, stuff like that, so you have the elements and you have that kind of game system going on, and then there's a team-based part of it too, where you want to fill up your gauge through combos, kind of like an ATB, Final Fantasy like 7 kind of bar. So if you're into that, I think you would have fun with this game. So I'm not generally into those type of games, and it seems like it's going to be one of those games where you might have to like wait for certain things. Like I remember that was a thing that happened in that Hogwarts game, the School Unite or Magic Unite or something like that, where you'll get to like a certain part in the castle and then you have to wait and stop unless you want to pay to, that kind of, there's that's a part of it. So I don't know if that's there because I'm playing like the developer version, so I don't know what the full version will be like. I'm able to like progress through everything at a good rate.
Is there an overworld and like a story to it as well, or is it purely just mechanic?
Yeah, it's a story. So there's a story, arena version. The story, like I said, could it be deemed canon? Because so far what I've played hasn't overlapped with anything, and hasn't broken anything within the lore. So I don't know. But I mean, for you guys who haven't been able to play it, is there any Avatar games in the past that you all have played that you enjoyed or recommend?
Well, I've been looking at like the Avatar Legends, the tabletop game that's coming out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I tried to like look at the Kickstarter or whatever, but I don't even know what's going on with that. Like, I feel like they've been like postponing it, or there's been delays.
Yeah, I know, particularly in the UK. It's actually taken me a while. Actually, I have it right here. It took them a while to actually get, because I supported the Kickstarter and I have the books, which I haven't even opened yet because I got the digital one. I like PDFs better, honestly. Digital things either because it's easier to scan. But then I have the actual versions of the book here, which is cool. I don't really play tabletop. I just got it because there's a lot of new lore in it, particularly in the Roku era. I know that, Callan, you play. Are you planning on ever doing a campaign?
I've not got any plans for it at the moment. I've played, I was going to say, because I've not really played any digital games myself, but I have played tabletop when it's been previously just fan-made systems or fan-made campaigns using other game systems. So I haven't actually had a look at this one to see how kind of neat and tidy it is yet with the bending and stuff, because it can be a bit clunky depending on how you design the system to work with bending and non-bending specifically in the overlap. So I'm interested to see what they do with it in this. But no plans on the table to actually play it yet. So might do that in the future, especially if you guys are interested.
Yeah, because I think I told my buddy once, I was like, I don't like playing D&D ever. He's like, that's just because you had a bad DM. I'm like, maybe.
100%. If you enjoy fantasy and you enjoy fun, you will like tabletop role-playing games if you're being taken from the world in the game, shepherded correctly. Yeah. And obviously there's different ways to put DM and to experience the game, but there are also many different good versions and many different bad versions of ways to do it. So you probably just have one of those.
Matt, how about you? Have you played any Avatar games in the past, or looking forward to anything?
Avatar games in general. There was like the trilogy on PS2. It was like the Burning Earth and the Into the Inferno. I played those as a kid. I haven't played them in years, but those are pretty good from what I recall. I just did a video. I did a video last year where I talked about what is it? Legends of the Arena. It was like an MMO kind of like arena fighter, battle royale type thing. That was pretty cool, but it's like lost media now.
In Legend, that was an Airbender game.
Yeah, it was like
was that older
you like
one?
pick your element and you like make your own custom character and you fight a bunch of people like in a battle royale type style.
That's
It
cool.
was around for like 6-ish years and then they discontinued it around
they
like
delisted it?
2015-ish.
Did they get rid of it like off of like Steam
Yeah,
or
like
whatever?
it's gone now.
That's what they do with all the Avatar games. Because one of my favorites, segue into that, would be the Legend of Korra game that came out initially for the PlayStation 4, and it was digital only. And I downloaded it because I was, watching the show at the time. And then I realized like a year later, people were like, "Where is it?" I was like, "I don't know." And it got delisted on the store. And it's like unless you purchased it originally, you can't play it anymore. And they do that a lot with that. I don't understand why. Like that other game too. They had the trading card game that kind of like discontinued as well. Like it's like nothing sticks. And I want like a AAA Avatar game. How viable do y'all think that a AAA Avatar game is or could be?
Very viable, 100%. Apart from anything else, the VR space should be making use of it. Have you seen that Earthbending game I sent you recently, Anton?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, if they could do, Rumble, I think, Rumble. They could do that with all of the elements, and it would be fantastic. It really does work. But the problem is, of course, you have to then pay for the expensive opening gate of the VR system. Because, but it can work in other systems as well. Just PC and controller. They just need to properly put effort into the actual gameplay mechanics and the movement and the combat and everything, because if it doesn't flow and feel like you're actively able to control and manipulate the bending, then the whole game comes apart, no matter how good the story or animation or whatever it happens to be, graphics, etc. You really need to be able to connect with the movement and the motion of the game, because that's what gets everyone excited about Avatar, isn't it? When it comes to actually playing anyway.
Yeah, I feel like if they do something like that, they have to kind of really get like the physics right in the game, because I think it would be kind of like, if you're going to be an earthbender, you should be able to like bend all around you, right? Like
exactly,
a waterbender.
That full interaction.
I've always said this several times. The channel people are probably tired of me hearing this, but I definitely want like a Ghost of Tsushima like level of Avatar, and then you can change out your styles in the same way that on Ghost of Tsushima you change your water stance or your moon stance, and then you would just use that versus like whatever enemy you're facing. It just seems so perfect for video games. And I mean, we've seen it occasionally with others in the past, and no one has yet like cracked like the big code on an Avatar game that I want to see.
It's tricky because there's a lot of creativity involved. Like the idea of, I want to do this and have this happen, to be able to integrate that into a controller system that it properly fits the space you're in as a character, etc. To make it work and feel real, it's a lot of effort and timing, and God knows how much money involved in making that work. And for whatever reason, they've not kind of put the passion into it and the money into it to fund that yet. But we shall see. The whole franchise is about to explode when it hits this new wave of material coming out. So there'll be more interest for it.
Yeah.
What have you guys heard of Spellbreak? Someone in the chat talking about Spellbreak. Okay.
No, not that one.
Google that, because I've never heard of Spellbreak.
Well, then it took like a long time for them to even do like a Harry Potter.
Oh
video
right.
Game, like
because even that's actually, I'm glad you brought that point.
Outside
It's
of
about to come out like next
obviously.
week. People were saying that it's the first actual AAA Harry Potter, and I was like, wait, what? Really? I was like, oh no, technically yes, because all the previous ones were really AA at best, because they were just tie-in and quickly done, really rushed.
Very good though. The second one in particular was fantastic.
Yeah, very good.
Later ones obviously were terrible, but the first initial few.
It's 1 to 3 properly to do that one.
Yeah.
It's 1 to 3, skip 4, 5, 6, don't even touch 7, and then Lego Harry Potter.
And
of course.
5 and 6 are pretty poor compared to 2 and 3 as well, like in terms of what they're doing.
But in terms of the
advancing the generation, etc.
The benefit of 5 and 6 is that you could actually like navigate in the castle and stuff like that, and like
you can do that with 2 though.
fully.
You can do that with
Well, yeah,
2.
2, but it's not as fully realized
Actually.
as 5 and 6 were, and that's what I would have wanted for like an Avatar. Is like, how would they do that? Do you guys think it would be like an open world if they did a game like that, or what do you think it's like a linear type thing with like little levels that you can go through?
Pretty sure they're already working on an open world Avatar game, aren't they?
Are you referring to Quest for Balance?
I I don't know, but I'm pretty sure
Fans are
there's
doing
something
it,
coming
yeah.
The
up.
one that's supposed to be like it looks like a Zelda.
Breath
What's
of the
that big
Wild.
one? Not Wind
Okay,
Waker.
maybe I don't know
What's
what
it
you're
called?
talking about then.
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, that's what they have been saying. The people who have seen like the leaks and things like that, they're equating it to that art style, but they have no idea what the context of like the gameplay will actually be.
To make it work properly, they'd need an overworld map and just move from stage to stage or area to area. They wouldn't be able to do like a full world map unless they went at the MMO route, and that would not work for Avatar. Not for the way they'd want it to properly pop. At least not in any way I can think of.
Oh, there's
You want to press a button and have effect happen on an Avatar game. You want to properly be able to like work out how the effect happens.
Well, that's
Right.
why like Breath of the Wild might be a good comparison, because they like in Breath of the Wild you had all these different tools and you could like manipulate the environment, like the magnetism and things like that. So I feel like they could probably figure out like something with Avatar.
Maybe they go like a Dragon Ball Z Kakarot type route where like you can just fly around on Appa. Like, that.
That would be
That's
amazing.
how that game had their open where you could just fly around as Goku. But, like now, apply that,
Tons
take
of
that
options.
format.
that art
Right,
style would
Avatar.
work really well too. I think. In particular.
That's one thing they've got going in their strength. The Avatar art style is very like easily portable into any kind of game you want to create. Like any style, any genre, it would easily fit and be relatively cheap, I'd say, given the average kind of AAA graphics game they've got to worry about.
Right. You don't have to go for photorealism or anything like that.
No, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's much simpler it would be a lot simpler to make it really pop and shine, for I would assume a lot less money. But yeah, we shall see.
Indeed. And then speaking of the games as well, so since we're on Avatar Generations, it was uncovered, I think initially by Airspeed Prime, who found it, who was on the show last month. He was playing the game because he played a lot more. He played it way more in depth than I played, like maybe the first hour or two, and then I was like, all right, cool, I'm good. And then I think he played like for an entire week and found a image because you get like unlockables and things like that in the game, as I mentioned before. And in it, he found an image of Aang and a little trinket next to his head that had Korra, and then another
Reflection.
person with like a bowl cut with like Earth Kingdom clothing, and we're like, wait, huh? And then that equated with the news that we got last month about there, being a Earth Avatar in progress, supposed to be coming out in 2025. Like, oh, is that the thing? Did you guys see this as well? I don't know if you guys saw it.
I did, yeah. I saw the clip anyway, not the full discovery, but the little snippet that was making every article and the headlines on the internet.
And what do you think? I mean, like, because typically, I was saying this before the stream, Mike and Ryan don't typically do Easter eggs like this. Like, they're not those type of creators.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and it would be a very strange way to do it as well. Like,
Yeah.
the sheer size and like complete abstract nature. I don't know.
Yeah,
but what
yeah,
was
like
it?
in shadow.
Yeah, exactly. The big question I have is that where do you go? Because it was already pushing the bound. I mean, regardless of what you think of Korra overall, it pushed the tech scale weirdly far very quickly. So I'm not entirely sure how you can capture the feel, vibe, style, world of Avatar by the state of Korra with a whole like other avatars lifespan difference. I don't know what that world's going to look like, and I don't know how they're going to make it fit people's general vibe of how the world's supposed to work. Because they were already pushing the boundaries for most people, I'd say, on Korra tier. So seeing how that works.
And it seems like they're trying to go more at that. You weren't here for the last month's stream, but we had a whole conversation about that. And I want to hear from you guys too about what you guys feel about that. Because there was another rumor out there about it being like going like cyberpunk, like it's going like
it almost
going
has
that
to, doesn't
far.
it? It almost has to get sci-fi now because they've had walking tower block mechs. I mean, it's not going to go down from there, is it?
How
What
about
are
you
your
all?
thoughts?
Yeah, I think I don't know. That's a hard one because there's a lot of like modern technology that I feel like would just not really make sense with Avatar. Like, I don't know. Are we gonna see like the space race like in Avatar? Like, I don't know. It just seems really weird. Like,
Spirit-powered rockets.
but I think there's some things that like I'm interested in, like how, I don't know, like medicine and stuff like that would work with like bending in the future, But yeah, overall, I think that's going to be very challenging, because I think with Korra, like it was more because it was set in a specific era still, like historical, like kind of like the 1920s,
yeah.
right? that they could kind of just reference. Well, they could just kind of reference like, you know, that technology and not have to really come up with things and as much, right? But I think if things progress, they're going to really have to start thinking outside, like how bending would interact with things in the modern world, or like smartphones, right? That's what I hear people talk about.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, how's that gonna work?
With the spirit power idea they brought in, being able to just use it in any weird way they want, that's the kind of thing they could do. Like, they have like spirit phones. They've got that option, but I don't see how many people would enjoy that, you know? I mean, maybe they would. Maybe they could tell that story. I don't know. But to me, I felt like they were already pushing the boundaries of Korra personally, just from the fact that it was 1920s and still yet had mechs. To go to basically modern era, how do they tell that story? What's going to be the vibe of it? You know, what's the point of the Avatar in a world like that?
I think that could be it right there. That could be the actual story.
But
Matt, go ahead, Matt. I see Matt shaking his head.
Wait, what?
I saw you nodding.
No, I don't know. I think it depends on how they go about it. You know, as general of a thing as that is, but like if you know if they want to go like the spirit energy route, then they have to like ground it in a way. You know what I mean? Where it's not like everything's powered by spirit energy now, and it doesn't make any sense because of what happened in Korra now, because that's like, you know, the whole spirit canon was that was a whole debacle, and now we're bringing that in we're just commonly using that. It's like literally using a nuclear reactor as like a phone battery or something like that. So like if they go, it depends on how far they want to take the concept, and what they do with that concept. You know what I mean?
And I had mentioned this
free
in my
Avatar
video,
energy.
but that was their initial want, actually. The original concept for Airbender initially was a sci-fi thought process where they were really into, Brian was the one who was really into Cowboy Bebop at that time. And had mentioned that the initial pitch was to do it in that fashion, but then they had to change it when Nickelodeon wanted to change it, or, you know, to actually get it greenlit. So they changed it to be like they pushed it back. But this is kind of like them going back to like their original fascination. So originally. I hope that they have thoughts that, you know, are intriguing. I don't know. You were gonna say something, Kelly?
Yeah, so well, Matt, you said how they would ground it. I think that's a good way of talking about it, particularly the spirit energy, because it's not just like, oh, I don't like the vibe of the world if they take it that route. I'm not kind of criticizing it on that level. Personally, it wouldn't gel with me for those reasons as well. But that's not, that's based on just an opinion. But just specifically the story of, because of how like close-knit and core to the world and genre of Avatar, spirituality is in particular, how they would be able to capture that kind of elemental, inner balance, spiritual core of both stories in a third one in which the modern era is so prevalent and so heavily skewed toward technology that supposedly would use said spirit energy. I don't know how they tell that story without it being a bit blunt and obvious and, oh, look what we've done, we shouldn't have gone this far, we shouldn't have taken this route, the Avatar should restore the balance of the world, which is essentially what they already, like you said, kind of told with the Korra story. So I can't, maybe I'll be surprised, but I can't see how they would be able to tell a new story that isn't too similar to Korra's without completely shattering everyone's perceptions of what Avatar is supposed to look and feel like, you know. I'm curious about it.
I know that you really enjoyed Arcane, and that has a similar thing where it's got like a Magitech sort of thing going on in that world. Knowing that about Arcane and how they dealt with that, how do you think that could possibly be adapted for an Earth Avatar after Korra?
It's a good question.
Or why is it that it works with Arcane? And what maybe could they learn from Arcane, or shouldn't do, or what they do different?
It could work. It could be like Arcane adjacent in style, but that's so thoroughly divorced from the feel of everything that is Avatar prior to that. You know, Korra rode the line at points by choice, and they worked that into the story, whether you liked it or not. That was the point, was the idea of balancing that spiritual and the modern and tradition and future and all that stuff. So they've told that. To replug it in and have a different story told in a Arcane style world, I don't know if that would I don't know how they tell that story without rehashing old material, basically, and just kind of saying the same story again, just taken further down the technological line into a more modern world. And also, what would it look like? Are people going to be using guns? Are people going to be using tanks, like modern tanks, not just steam tanks? You know, everything was, like you said, Mac, was grounded in the previous iterations, be it like diving suit mechs to start with, or steam tanks in the original. What could this modern one be with 100 years leap forward, with all of this extremely compressed timeline of technology? And yet people are still using martial arts, still focusing on the spiritual side, still all that jazz. I can't see what it would look like, and still feel like Avatar.
Right, because it kind of works now, because if people are using non-modern weapons like swords and spears, it makes sense for the benders to be benders. But it could be like that. It could be a transition period of like, oh well, non-benders now literally. I mean, that's kind of like you were saying already. They already were kind of dealing with that, where they were getting into mech suits. They had like the equalists who were able to like tase them or the cheap blocking. So what new would be said, or would it even be new enough?
Yeah, they could just take it to the extreme and have it be kind of like mutant style, where the benders are now the oppressed, the benders are now the minority, they're now the ones that don't have the future, and it's tilted the spectrum entirely the other way. And what's the role of an avatar in a world where, I mean, are they supposed to fight for the benders over the non-benders? Is that the way they're thinking? Is the Earth Avatar gonna have to struggle with that idea? I don't know, but I don't. And that might work, but to my mind, that doesn't feel like Avatar. If the Avatar as a spiritual and political figure isn't the core of the balance in the world, I don't know what the feel and genre of fantasy they're telling is supposed to feel like,
And also, will that collide with their other projects? Because we're gonna have a Kyoshi movie. That's the Zuko movie. Which good segue. So yeah, we heard from Avatar News that we kind of heard it already, like that we were gonna get the Kyoshi movie, the Korra movie, and the Zuko movie. But now we have not confirmation from Avatar Studios, but we have it like a pretty solid rumor leak from Avatar News, and they're generally pretty thorough and correct in their what they say. Then 2026 we're gonna get a Zuko movie. So yeah, what do you guys think about that? Like, what do you think that will be? What time period do you think that's gonna come out for Zuko? Go ahead, Matt.
I'm thinking. I have two potential ideas. You might be able to combine them too, if you really wanted to go for it. But there's it's kind of slightly based from the comics, because like if for those who haven't read the comics, spoilers ahead. But in the comics, Zuko breaks up with May, and that's a whole plot line in like a subplot in one of the comics. And then in The Search, which everybody knows, The Search, we have Azula coming back, and then she later comes back in Smoke and Shadows, evil again. I'm thinking if they want to take this idea, you guys, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Aaron E. has tweet where he's like, oh, Azula's redemption arc in book 4, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking like if they wanted to maybe take that comic book storyline and expand upon it a little bit, have Zuko trying to like literally hunt down Azula, maybe try to get her to come to his side a little bit, you know what I mean? I could see that working pretty well, and maybe have like a May subplot in the background and kind of explain how they get back together, if at all. Because obviously we don't know who Zuko ends up with if that's the case. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I'm spitballing, but
yeah, I agree. I think it's likely that if they bring Azula back for a project, that it would probably be the Zuko one, because that's like the most potential with the story. But I don't know about we already kind of have the filled out what happens directly after the show with the comics. And then if the new movie that's coming out is going to be the one with the adult Aang, then maybe it could be like a follow-up to that one, kind of. But yeah, I think there's a big span of time between like, those 2 points that they could go in. So.
What do you think a Zuko movie is going to give us?
I've always been someone who's a big fan of the idea and potential for a Azula redemption story, but I'd almost wish that was for an Azula story itself, like focusing on her as a character rather than as a part of the Zuko story. at the same time, I also don't think I particularly enjoy having a story entirely focused on Azula herself anyway. So it's kind of one of the top two minds about it. Do I want it to be told through the lens of Zuko, not giving enough time to Azula, but do I not want to spend an entire time looking at Azula herself? Because I think she works better when she's a lot of the time off screen and you're out of her own perspective, out of her own mind, etc. But I think it's definitely the most likely outcome that they're going to play with her because it's, as you said, Matt, it's the kind of the most material that we've already had and are familiar with that they can use for this. If they did anything else, it would basically be completely new material and completely just fresh story, which doesn't tend to be the way they take these projects. You know, they want proven ground and familiar content and characters and icons for people to latch onto, and it seems like this is the obvious one to go.
Right, and then that's the two minds I feel like, because there's like the studio part of it and then like the Mike and Brian part. Because Mike and Brian have said in the past that they do not like retreading. I think at one point they were talking about one of their villains. I think they were initially thinking Unlock was going to be a bloodbender, but like, no, we just did a bloodbender or something like that. Yeah. I can't remember, it was some interview they did where they basically...
Well, it's why everything was so divorced from the first series. They barely had the gang in the new one, isn't it? And that was a specific intentional choice, wasn't it? So I don't know what
choices. They do a lot of that I'm like okay with, like I've mentioned all the time, but like the severing of past lives, I'm like, I'm really glad they did that because it shows actual consequence. Like we keep hearing about all of the dangers of, you know, being in the Avatar state, dangers of it, and then we don't actually see like the result. And like we actually saw the result, and I don't know, for me,
I know she kept the Avatar power. She lost all the story and all the character, but kept the power. That's why I didn't like it. Like she's still just as strong apparently, but it just has none of the actual people we want to go back and talk to and have conversations.
Oh, do you mean the Rava part where like the Rava power is still there? But
exactly. I was never a fan of that person. I felt that cut more story potential than it added, which is usually my benchmark for whether or not a character death, or in this case, multiple character deaths in theory, it should be done. How much potential story you get out of it versus how much you lose. Well,
for me, the reason I'm okay with it is because I feel like those stories are still being told. Like when you have like the Kyoshi novel, you have the Yang Chin novel, like particularly with Yang Chin in that book, she's like, you know, terrorized by her past lives voices and like that. So I think you can have a different storyline. You were saying that you don't.
You can. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But this is very much I had this feeling before we had any hope of ever seeing past stories being told. It was always going to be like moving forward.
What's going forward?
Yeah. Which is fair, and that's good. We do get that. So it's nice that we don't completely lose all chance of having those stories being told. But I just think it's a shame that Korra and the next Avatar, you know, will never have that conversation with Kyoshi, or will never have that conversation with Roku, or any of them. You know, any new ones. You know, there may be someone in the past that can connect with the new Avatar, the Earth Avatar better. But now they will never have that opportunity. It's only going to be Korra that they can connect to. You know?
Well, didn't Tenzin didn't he see Aang's spirit in the spirit world? Like,
in the fog of lost.
Yeah. It wasn't clear how that's supposed to work when it happened. I don't think, because I thought they were supposed to be tied to the soul of the Avatar, right?
Right. I don't really know either.
And that took place right before the past lives were severed, right? Because that was
it before?
Was the finale? Because the fog.
I think it was before. I think you're right.
It was right before the sever. Because it couldn't make sense if it happened after, and it's like, well, hey, now the Avatar spirits can now roam freely.
Yeah, that would be
right.
You know?
That's the main thing. I just want them to be able to communicate. That's the main thing. If their lives can carry on post severing, I'm fine with it. I just don't like the idea of all these characters just disappearing into the wind for seemingly no real gain in the story. In my opinion. But yeah.
I should say like what I think about the Zuko movie. So yeah, as Lauren here was saying, it's similar to what I would like to see. So the Zai Bao, which is someone that we learned about in I think it was the Fire Nation Legacy book or something like that, where we found out who the origins of the Red Lotus came from. I mean, that could be a really cool storyline for Zuko, is seeing like, you know, the Red Lotus, because it did fissure from Iroh. So seeing like the fallout of that and how he deals with that. I also agree with Matt in that I would like to see what's going on with May, and you know, what is Izumi, like we kind of know, but y'all didn't really like tell us, you know. We kind of know and what that's going to be, but also the same thing with Azula. I don't want to see a redemption arc in the same way that we got for Zuko, and I don't want her to become like, I'm a good guy. Hero now. I'm healed.
Oh no, yeah.
But I definitely would like to see an anti-hero kind of a thing. Because what's happening right now in the comic books is that she's sort of acting as using Zuko as a puppet leader, or at least that's her intention, is to use him as a puppet leader. That she's going to rule from the shadows and kind of manipulate him, test him in her way, kind of like his own adversary, so that she can make sure he's sharp enough to actually maintain the Fire Nation. And I think that's a pretty cool role for her, especially if the Red Lotus comes in, because we know that the Red Lotus, they don't like leadership. That's their whole thing. It's like to bring down the establishment. And if she sees them attacking potentially Zuko, then there's opportunity there for that team up. And I was saying it would be kind of cool if we saw like Azula and Zuko like going to the original Firebenders and having that moment, because also we don't know where Zuko got Druk from,
Right.
his dragon. So it could be on that second visit, maybe when he's taking Azula. Oh, by the way, a really good background right now, Brady. For this moment.
Ron and Shaw.
In that when they're having that time with the masters, that also can showcase, oh, this is how people also got a dragon egg or whatever. We don't even know how it works in Avatar, like if it's an egg-based thing or how do Ra and Shaw like copulate?
I know they. Are there more dragons like
Yeah,
within
like,
the tunnel?
We don't know. We absolutely just don't know. But I think that would be really interesting if we saw something like that.
I like the idea of them working together to bring down the Red Lotus the initial time as well. Because the whole, I mean, we've always said that they should have been the ones that killed Sokka, for example. And that should have been more heavily tied into the core story, the involvement and the emotional connection between Red Lotus and the old gang. But having missed that opportunity, it would be nice to play with it in some space in the new stuff, particularly with Azula involved. Even if we have them whole, which would be a bit done to death, but still they could do it work, make it new and fresh. Is she working with them? Because like you said, they would try and use her for their own goals and thinking that she aligns with them. Is she using them, or are they using her right in the last minute when she then turns and assists Zuko, or not, as the case may be? That would be an interesting way to kind of show her redemption, because I want her to be redeemed, and I think the potential is there, given the moments that we see with her at the end of book 3. She very clearly is self-aware in her issues and doesn't like them. But every other aspect of her personality leans her towards not fixing them in the way that you would see in someone like Zuko. So I'd like to see that space played with, but without her ever coming out as like a goody two shoes, fully redeemed, like good person, because it's not in her nature.
Right. Well, and another thing that I'm thinking about now with the Zuko movie is Zuko has like another younger. They both have a half sister, Kai.
I don't know if it's Ki or Kai.
But so I think that they will probably have her play a big role also, and I could see her being a contributing factor to like whatever happens with Azula, right?
Oh, and just to answer Jenna, this will not be a comic adaptation. The creators have specifically stated that none of this new material that we're getting is going to be anything adapted. And that kind of hurts me, because when I was thinking back about it, I would love the Kyoshi novels to actually be adapted.
Yes,
pretty
so
fabulous.
Surprisingly good. I was so happy with Kyoshi. Was my favorite author back in the day. And
which I never saw. Okay, look, explain this to me. How is she your favorite without having the Kyoshi
novel?
novel?
The vibe, the personality, the choices, the perspective, everything about her, her longevity, the impact on the world. She did basically everything that lasted from our perspective in the Avatar world. Like, she created all these organizations. She tried to affect politics. She lived the longest time, all this cool stuff. And on top of that, whenever we saw her, we saw the kind of leader and the kind of avatar she was trying to be. I loved all of that. And then I was blown away in my surprise at the fact that the author actually managed to capture what I perceived her character to be, like, perfectly in that halfway Avatar, halfway Batman style. Loved it. So I was really happy that they expanded that, and I would love to see it adapted in the form, particularly with some of the what I would perceive as flaws ironed out as well, because there were some issues with the book that I had.
Yeah, I mean, so I also have my issues with it too, but it's definitely a positive, like, net positive.
Oh yeah, 100%, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. But there were just a few things I would have cleaned up, so it'd be nice to see that opportunity, and also to see Kyoshi shine in in a live action format, or even just an animated format, because he's an awesome character.
Matt, Brady, you guys read the Kyoshi book, right? Or no?
I haven't.
I also have not.
They're really good. They're really good.
How did I invite you? No, you guys have to immediately. Like, I will sing you the book or something. Like, I have the audiobook. Yeah. Like, oh my god, you must. It is.
When
so
you buy
good.
them, take the covers off though, because the undercover is so much more attractive than the other way.
Oh yeah, if you get the hardback edition. They are so good. Literally
They're really
my
good.
favorite antagonist of the entire not just Airbender, not Korra, talking about the entire franchise.
100% book 1 of Kyoshi.
Jinju, is baller, dude. I mean, he's a terrible person, but for, like, he's not terrible, and that's the reason why I probably like him so much. He kind of has to be because of the world that is there. I don't want to ruin it too much.
Yeah, he's broken, but you understand it. And these couldn't agree more. Fantastic, best villain in Avatar, period, for me. Certainly top 3 if you love it, if you prefer others for different reasons, but for me, he's number 1. He deserved. Yeah, they did a lot with him, and I wish they could have done more. I want those books to continue. Basically, I could have 10 of those books if they were written as well as the first 2 were. And I don't say that about everything with Avatar, because more is not.
Not always.
I'd happily never have another Avatar piece of content ever.
I personally wasn't a big fan of the Yang Chen book that came out. It was a little too much political drama for me, but the Kyoshi was like the perfect balance, like, to me, and in particular the characters, like the inner relationships, and particularly the false avatar, because it's based mostly around the plot of this false avatar, like that. Oh my god, that arc, man, like,
so good.
Oh, like,
doesn't really go anywhere, but it's brilliant at the start.
Yeah. So juicy that was. Oh wait, hold on. I want to read some of the comments because I've been like being pretty bad about that. Wait, what? Okay, I'm not gonna say that because that might be. I don't know what's going on with that.
Hey, Tektronic gets me. It is a little heartbreaking that future avatars won't ever get to speak to Kyoshi. I'm with you.
Oh yeah, I get. Well, okay. Oh, so Objective Geek mentioned this in our last stream, and he said, what did he say? Like the idea that when Aang, went and actually talked to his past lives, he didn't actually like listen to any of them. Like he had to,
but that's Aang.
That's Aang. But he was saying, like, as for future storylines, that sort of thing could come up too. That you have to make your decisions on your own anyway. And then like the same thing with the Yang Chen novel, which I felt like one of the things that I wish it went further into that it didn't was her past lives, like being a past. In her mind, that she was so spiritually open that she was just getting everyone coming in, getting all this noise. Yeah. But they only like touched upon it. It didn't go as deep as I was, because that was part of like
that's
the
a really
blurb. That was like, I really want to. That's really interesting to me.
I've not read the book yet, so I would have loved to see that. If
I wish it was just more. They decided to go more like a political, like there's this platinum affair thing, and so for people who like that
choice for Yang Chen, I wouldn't have chosen politics.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that either.
Considering how much it features with the Kyoshi novels,
right? Yeah, exactly. Which I think is why they liked FCE so much. That's the author of the Kyoshi books. I think it's because he has such a mind for that. But I don't think it should apply to every story. Like. Definitely, I think next time we should have a different author, like, just see their takes, so we get different, especially for a different Avatar character. Like for anything Kyoshi related, FCE. You continue.
Yeah, he's got a great prosal voice, and particularly really nicely plays the characters he's working with in different scenes. He's a really smart author. I don't agree with his plotting in a lot of ways.
I think that's me too. It's the plotting that I think is the most.
Yeah, and that's the thing I care about least. Like usually, exactly. I do not care about plotting. It's the least important thing for me on the many stacks of things. But with that, it came up a few times, and then from choices I wouldn't have made. But yeah, that's Kyoshi. So we're often on the past. Let's look at the future.
Oh, and that's another thing that people keep saying, that the next Avatar, like that'll be their plot, is reconnecting the past lives.
Yes, it could also be something that comes back, but that then kind of gets the worst of both worlds, doesn't it? You diminish the loss.
You do the Rise of Skywalker thing.
Yeah, I wish they hadn't cut it, but if they're gonna cut it, they should commit to cutting it. I think
I'm of that mindset too.
Yeah,
just commit to it, because that's weak sauce. You guys just went back on here. You went back on it. Yeah.
Well, I think if they are going to reconnect the past lives, I would like it to be Korra, not another Avatar, because I feel like it was Korra's like struggle. It would kind of take away from it.
That's also true. Yeah, it would suck for her to have failed to never reconnect it. Yeah. The next Avatar is like, I fixed it. Why didn't you do that?
But you know what? That actually, if that is the case, we probably wouldn't get that, because right now what's scheduled first is Earth Avatar series, and then or movie, which we haven't heard about yet. But right now, like in terms of the slate, which I guess I can talk about now. That's like one of the topics that happened, was like the projected slate that Avatar News put out, which some of this stuff is like completely confirmed, but the other stuff is like not so much, kind of like up in the air. Of course, it'll be the live action Avatar, which is coming out sometime this year. People are thinking summer 2023. And yes, I just saw in the title, like, there was a rumor that it would have a Superbowl commercial. But unfortunately, there was a tweet recently that specified that is not the case. That they aren't, like, internally, they're not going to be putting out a live action trailer on Superbowl, which is like, you guys should. That's like a really good point. But I mean,
It'd be an expensive
expensive or
slot, though, for
something.
them, right?
No, I don't know. What do you say?
I mean, it would get the eyes on it that they need, but it's an expensive slot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
This
an
day.
extremely expensive.
Yeah, for their
expensive.
current cost of production, that would be a good chunk of their
Yeah, I think
money.
they're paying like. Do you guys remember how much an episode?
Yeah, it was like over 1 million, or like 10 million per episode or something
I
crazy.
think it was like in the tens of
Jesus.
millions.
Yeah.
for each episode. And it's like what? Like
Well, and
They
if they're
better
gonna
pull it off. They better pull it off.
and if it's gonna release in the summer, then there has
they
to
need
be
to start promoting
I-
it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think the other thing that Avatar News is saying is that the reason they're not right now is because of the other Avatar, kind of like, making headway right now. Well, breaking records, passing 2 billion in the box office. So the Blue People Avatar is the reason why they aren't doing any Avatar promo stuff right now, because it might overlap with that.
Yeah,
They're waiting
that's
for that
fair.
to die down, and the issue is that it's not dying down,
Yeah.
because that thing keeps making money.
But it's a fair thought, though, to be fair with them.
Well, and now it's a
Right.
series, like a franchise. So now there's going to be another, the
every
third
2 years they have to deal with
Avatar.
this, Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and the next one's supposed to be fire. Did you see that? It's supposed to be like a fire Navi that they're supposed to be interacting with.
Oh God,
It's
even
like,
worse.
they are legit doing elemental stuff as well, which is like that's even worse for the confusion that people have.
Right.
Speaking of, actually, in a different vein, Tectronic mentioned that they want a unified continuity that we can all get behind, because he's worried that they're worried, sorry, that the Netflix series might split the fandom a bit, in the same way that we've seen with
Oh
Star
yeah,
Wars,
because it is a different continuity. Yeah, it's
which is
not.
a terrible idea. And
It's completely separate.
in an Avatar, the franchise is so small as it is at the moment, and when you expand this kind of story and this kind of world, if you fracture it, as it says, it's splitting the community. If you keep it contained and carefully, step by step, grow it and expand it and develop it, and then fill it in the past and the future, and then maintain control over the timeline as much as one can with any complex, kind of canon, you will always benefit from it. I've always said that. Nurture that, and you will only have stories thrive. It's what Star Wars did for 35 years before they deleted it, and it's never a bad thing. I think
The issue is because the fissure happened probably like when Mike and Brian were part of the Netflix project. That was like going to be the case. It was going to be like, yeah, this is live action. It's not. Even then, I don't even know if it was going to be a canon, because it's still like an adaptation.
Yeah.
But it's still it's in a weird place, because the same continuity, they're actually using stuff from the expanded universe of Avatar. So they're pulling from book material, they're pulling from comics, things that haven't even come out yet from the role-playing game are going to be in it. So it's still in the same. It's like parallel. It's like a parallel universe.
But why? Why not have them just be lockstep? They can do that. If you can do it, why not? Is all I have to say.
The way to do that is just not adapting.
To not,
yeah. Like just make a new
Tell
story
new
entirely.
stories.
Yeah. Well, any change they make now, it's like diverged from the
it's different entirely.
continuity.
It's different continuity. Yeah, there'll be a live action continuity and animated continuity.
And the really stupid thing is, I'm not saying I want this, but the stupid thing is, if they just shot for shot remade the series in live action and did it well, and like with actual money spent on the budget and the CGI, etc., people would love it.
It's what they're doing right now.
It's not.
with The Last of Us.
Yeah,
on
exactly
HBO.
correct. First, I was going to bring up that exact example. That's what people are doing, and people love it. I don't think that's the best way to adapt something in general, but if you want to maintain a canonicity as like in an overall franchise in the world, that's the way to do it. And it brings on all the people who are never going to watch the animation into the world with exactly the same shared knowledge and shared perspective.
That's funny. That was one of the things I was like against with Last of Us initially, because like, dude, the story is already perfect. It's like some people don't play video games. Like one of my friends, he said this, he was texting me. He was like, "Are you excited for it?" I'm like, "No, like I played the video game. It's a perfect story already." He's like, "No, but like not everybody plays games. Like some people, you're gonna introduce it. I'm about to share it with people who have never and people are loving it. And have you seen that the sales for Last of Us have like skyrocketed? I think they went up like 200% or something like that.
It's only
like, maybe I should play it. Yeah.
From a creator's perspective, I can understand the criticism, but from a production standpoint, from the people making the money, it only makes them money. I don't know why they don't do it more. The adaptation and new direction and changes and all that, it never pays off. Or if it does, it doesn't do it as well as it could have done if they hadn't done that. So it's always confused me.
Man, how do you feel about the Netflix and all that stuff? I don't even know what your thoughts are on.
I have had a very complicated relationship with this concept, because like on one hand, if they start changing stuff, it's never going to end well. We're never going to hear the end of it. This is going to be the movie part 2. Like we're not going to. But at the same time, they're I mean, and not to talk about the movie all the time, but like they're it seems to me that they're trying so hard with this live action series to not be the movie,
Right.
which I think might ironically be the thing that like not kills it, but like that definitely is gonna impede it. You know what I mean?
What do you think from the movies that they should hold over? Which is very funny. Airspeed Prime again was here last month. Made a video recently about things that they should actually learn from the last Airbender movie and what they should like actually maintain and keep versus what they should do correctly. Like what is it that you think that the Netflix series live action should be doing right now?
Is there anything to keep? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What would you keep from the film?
Well, he was saying like the music. He was actually being very generous. He was the stuff that like made sense. Like, oh yeah, I remember the music actually being like fabulous.
The music goes hard in that movie,
ridiculously hard. He was saying some of the story choices in terms of like you're still going to have to truncate, even though you have more time because you have a series. You're still gonna have to truncate. But he was explaining like how they should truncate it, not like skating over like them helping the Earth villages, on the way of like montaging that stuff like that. But yeah, like because they are being very anti Last Airbender movie fan base and also Netflix. Yeah, like as you were saying before, when you were saying like, oh, they might be going too far in the other direction, where they might be adding too much stuff and changing things. What happy middle or what would you want to see from the adaptation?
See them not change things.
Oh yeah, so you want to just a direct.
The Last of Us, Avatar style.
Shot for shot would be like ideal, honestly, but like we know that's not gonna happen.
Right. I'm okay with what they said they're gonna be doing, which is the changes they're making aren't like super substantial in that the baseline isn't gonna be changed. What's going to be added are those little things like they spent like we're going to get way more insight into Avatar Kuruk and how all that stuff like the Cloud Face Stealer thing is actually going to involve him versus just not. I'm not sure. I'm guessing on when they get to Kyoshi Island because Kyoshi was cast as well, so it's like I don't know how Kyoshi is going to be involved in book 1, obviously in book 2. Stuff like that I'm okay as being like additions and that sort of thing. I mean we really don't know what it will be like, but I'm not averse to a different interpretation. In fact, I kind of want it, me personally, because if you're going to adapt something, it's got to be different. That's why, for instance,
Make it new,
yeah, Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite adaptation of the Harry Potter books because it's a movie. Like it's made as a movie and it's not trying to do the one for one. I know a lot of people, like Harry Potter fans in particular, like 1 and 2 are like the gold standard. But I was like, no, I feel like Azkaban was the gold standard because it was actually saying, hey, this is a movie. We need to tell it in movie time, and doing that as well as good as possible. I kind of want that for the live action Airbender as well. Is adapted to the medium that is there.
Lord of the Rings is always the gold standard for that adaptation and taking that epic book and journey and truncating it into a epic film and journey, but still smaller. That's how you do it.
Oh, by the way,
I don't know how they do it with Avatar, though. To be fair,
wait, say one more time with the Avatar.
I don't know how they do it with Avatar, though. To be fair, to their credit, it's
right? Like how they adapt. I know. So far, it's been okay. I mean, the only thing I fear. Okay, well, let's talk about that. What is our hopes for it, for it, and then our fears for it. So, my fears, I'll go with that first, is performances. I really hope for the adult actors, I've seen their stuff. Like I know what they're capable of, and I have no fears on that, at all. Like Ozai looks really awesome. Iroh. Oh, have you guys watched Kim's Convenience, by the way? I actually watched it because of the guy who got casted, Paul. I forget his last name. Paul. Well, I forget his last name. His first name is Paul. Playing Iroh. Really good performer. It's just that the kids, I just really hope that, because that's really important in Avatar in particular, like the relationship between the friend group. If that isn't right, if the chemistry is not there, then it's going to be hard, getting through that. Also, the animation, it's been really hard for industries to do water effects in particular. They obviously are throwing the money there, and people who have been behind the scenes are saying that it looks fabulous and all that kind of stuff. That would be another fear. But what could be great about it, again, like we were saying with Last of Us, you're introducing because some people just literally will not watch it because it's animated, and you're like, what? Like, I don't understand people who are like that, but
I
it's
don't
like
understand that either.
you literally won't watch it because it's animated. You'll introduce
Some of the
new
greatest
people.
stories ever told have been animated, so you know. it's
Right.
just-
You'll have that. That's a positive that I would see from it. Also, there's just something in the mind, like when you see some animated character or something from the book or a video game, and then you see it as a real person that we're all fascinated with. That I too, am fascinated just seeing that. You're like, oh my god, that's a real Aang walking around right now. That kind of a thing. So that would be that's where I'm at right now, like in terms of like both parts. Oh, thank you, Paul Sung Lee. That's his name. Rest in peace, Kim's Convenience. Yes, that was a good show as well. But yeah, how do you guys feel? What are your like hopes and fears for the live action show?
Yeah, the thing I fear is that we're gonna get the terrifying live action Appa and Momo because
that too. Yeah,
I really don't want to see a horror movie or a horror Avatar but because I think that is gonna be hard to pull off because you have to make it. I mean, they interact with like Appa all the time, right?
Mhm.
So
they write him all.
I know, which maybe that's yeah. I mean, maybe that part isn't as challenging, but I think definitely the visual effects, that's something I worry about. And also I do kind of worry about the changes to the story that they're making because I think there's a lot that they're adding to like the first season. Like they're adding Azula and Ty Lee and May, which could be fine. Like if it's just like maybe a flashback or something.
I forgot about that. You're right. Yeah, the Ty Lee and May are like, they are like introducing people pretty, and Azula even is gonna,
right.
Yeah,
Which she was in season 1, but just
but as like a backup.
cameo.
It seems like they cast these people,
right?
So it's like, oh, okay, maybe.
So, but I think that overall, I think it's probably going to be a lot more positive than negative because they're putting a lot of money into this. There's a lot of interest in trying to get this to succeed, and I think that they know that the first people that they have to satisfy are the ones that watch the show religiously and that are obsessed with it. And so if they don't get those details right, then it's probably not going to succeed at all, right? So it makes me think that the pressure is on for them, and hopefully they'll deliver, right?
And what are you looking for that could be a positive coming, or what does it have to do for it to be like a positive experience for you?
Yeah, I think that they just have to get the feel of the show. I don't think they need to do a one-to-one adaptation. I think that they can change things as they need to and even introduce new characters or whatever. I think they just need to get the character, the feelings of the characters right, the feeling of the atmosphere of the universe right, and just kind of the basic beats of the story, and make sure that they don't get rid of all of the best character moments, right? But I think that they know overall which parts to include, hopefully, and which ones are not as important. So yeah, and I'm excited to see all the actors too. I think we'll see. It's definitely a child actor situation where it's a hit or miss.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I'm hopeful about it. I think that they hired martial artists, these kids that they Michael, or what's his name, Gordon Cormier, right? Is that his name? Who's playing Aang?
Well, yeah,
Isn't he
let's be fair, that's actually what they did for the Last Airbender as well. That kid, Noah Fletter, I think was his name, who played Aang in the Last Airbender movie. He also that was his main thing, is yeah, I do martial arts, and then we saw him doing all these behind the scenes martial arts, and then never. Remember that teaser? You remember that first season?
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys remember when it first dropped.
It was actually decent.
My
watching that,
God.
and I think that
It was
was
the
the
big
first
swoopy
thing
shot
we
of
were
the Fire Nation ships coming up to a cliff, and then you go inside the cliff and you see
The last
Aang
scene is the
doing
temple.
his staff. It was like, oh my God, this is gonna be the most baller movie ever.
And it was the only good thing about the entire.
That was the best experience of that entire time, was that teaser, and then thinking about that teaser. Yeah, I'm sorry, Noah Ringer. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, Noah Ringer was the original. So so they did have that. To be fair to the original, they did have the martial arts part. It's just that it was a lot that went wrong on that. The writing, some of the acting, the casting, just so many. It was a comedy of errors, that entire movie.
Yeah. Well, I think it's mostly because M. Night Shyamalan just wanted to make his version of Abbott. I didn't think he really even cared.
He was
about
M. Night at that time, right? You couldn't really say no to M. Night
Yeah.
at that time in his career. and he definitely needed some people to reel him in. I actually don't watch his movies anymore. They're promoting that movie of his right now, or a series, or whatever, Severance or Servant or whatever it's called. I'm like, no. I saw like the M Night come up. I'm like, no. I actually gave him a chance on Old, that movie that just came out recently, last year, 2 years ago. Old. I was like, I don't know why I got tricked into this once again. Like, and I want to know what M Night's doing. How he gets to make movies still. Like, he makes the most bizarre.
We've spoken before. His pitch meetings must be
amazing.
On
must
point.
be his best
he must be the greatest pitcher in human history after that film.
Yeah, I feel like he has good concepts. It's just the execution's always
his premises, right? You hear his premise, because that's the thing. His trailer, that's the thing that almost got me too. Because in the trailer, I was like, that's a really cool premise. What I'm gonna watch this, and I saw M Night at the end of it. I'm like, no, ruined. I'm not watching this now. But yeah, his premises are really good, which is again a pitch thing, right? If you're like, oh yeah, sounds like a really good story, and then have him just be a producer, then guy, just be a producer, and have someone else direct your stuff. But he'll never do that. But Matt, what are your hopes for the live action, or fears? Both.
All right, I'll start with my hopes here. I'll start with my hopes and dreams. My main hope is that if they're going to add anything new, it better be for the better. Because if you're gonna, obviously book one, because obviously they're doing book one, of course. That's definitely the weakest book, I think, of the original series.
Yeah, I think
it's very choppy. There's like little things they could tweak to make it better. And of course, I think they're adding they're like giving Suki an extended storyline, and obviously she didn't get a whole lot in the show.
Oh, and that's a helpful one, because that's something that I feel like I agree that Suki didn't have. I always felt she was a very vanilla character, and I always wondered like, why is everybody love her so much? Like, she hasn't really done anything in the series for the Boiler Rock stuff.
Yeah,
right. Well, she wasn't even supposed to be a character that comes back.
I can feel that. I definitely feel that. Well, that would help. Yeah, like you're saying, expanding on that sort of.
Just like adding to these characters that didn't get a whole lot, or just like tweaking little story things to help it flow a little bit better. Cutting out the filler, obviously, because they're not going to do the Great Divide. Let's be honest. No.
But it's an essential part of the story. You need the Great Divide, or the whole experience falls flat on its face.
I hope they reference it at least.
Or something. They're definitely gonna have.
They'll just do a long panning shot as they fly through a cannon.
Oh, my bad, guys. We were incorrect before. Well, I mean, we were still correct, but $15 million per episode. I just looked it up right now. Yeah. So the entire show will add up to $120 million. So basically the budget of a movie. But sorry, continue, Matt.
Well, that actually leads me into my biggest fear.
There you go.
Which is that I hope this is not a major waste of money.
Right.
Because the fact that this kind of goes back to the Super Bowl thing we were talking about, but the fact that they haven't shown us anything yet, and it's this close to release is kind of concerning to me.
Yeah.
Because even with all the cast saying all this great stuff about it, they're like, oh, it's a great adaptation. It's fantastic. It's going to be worthy. They said the same thing about live action Cowboy Bebop, and look where that ended up. So that's my biggest fear. Is maybe the reason they're not showing anything is not because of Blue People Avatar, but because they know okay, this is going to be a little touchy. This might be touchy with people, and they're a little afraid to show anything. Because I know for a fact that the day that trailer finally drops, the internet's going to explode.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen
when everyone watched the first episode, so they at least get that high first episode rating. Because if they put out that first trailer and it's bombs and no one watches, if this is bad, it could sink the entire franchise in its development. It's that dangerous,
Well, it's okay. So video game examples. So there's a game recently that came out called Forspoken. Another game that's coming out we're about to have in a week called Hogwarts Legacy. So Forspoken is a game developed by Square Enix. They refused to give reviewer codes to reviewer, like IGN requests a reviewer code, didn't get it. YouTubers, influencers who usually review games ask for reviewer codes, didn't get them. Usually a bad sign, because if they don't want to show you the thing before it drops, and the embargo lifted for reviews and things like that on the day of release. So usually a bad sign. So Matt, totally feel you on that. If you're not saying anything about it, and you're supposed to drop this in the summer of 2023 or sometime in 2023, we don't even have a teaser. We could have at least had the same teaser, not the same teaser, obviously, that we had last year, but something of that, nature.
Yeah, if it's all you need. Got to remember as well, apart from anything else, no one in the world has any idea what Avatar is, animated Avatar. No one has a clue. We know because we grew up watching it, and fans of it, and we just stories about it. My mum doesn't know anything about it. my friends who aren't
My dad
Avatar
doesn't,
fans, which
yeah.
is granted a very few small amount of people, never heard of it. So until they do that first trailer and that first release, it's not going to do well on sale. In the same way, I mean, I've never heard of Forspoken, for example. I have heard of Hogwarts Legacy.
Right.
That's me,
So
it was on the internet,
so Forspoken, who you're into video games. And then it came out. So Forspoken came out a week ago. Review bombed. Terrible game. Everybody expected it because y'all didn't want us to know. Now Hogwarts Legacy, they just gave people 2 hours of play. Like, hey, go in Hogwarts, go fly around the grounds and everything, because they're confident as hell in the game they developed, right? That's what I want to see for the Last Airbender. Like, I want to see some. The only image we have is that concept art that they had from like 4 years ago of Appa and Aang. Not even a picture or anything. I mean, we had like some set photos that leaked or whatever of like I think the entrance to the northern water tribe, something like that. But that's it, or like a Fire Nation thing. So yeah, it is a little bit concerning, because
it's a bit late now, but if they'd given us something a year and a half ago, they could have run some damage control on it if it had been panned. If they showed us like a 30-second clip and everyone was like, "Oh god, that looks like an
like a Sonic the Hedgehog,
like Sonic the Hedgehog," about to say that same thing. They could do some damage control and show that they're interacting with the audience, show that they care, show that they're putting the passion and the attention into it, etc. But they've not done any of that. They've left it to the last minute, and with a franchise like this, I mean, just the fact that it's animation to live action, that instantly gives them like the hardest job in the world, and it's also a beloved Lord of the Rings tier fantasy fiction. It's not. It's tricky. And I'm not.
I do want to note on this comment here, because I've heard this a lot from the fandom. The director and the people that work with the show are fans of the show, of The Last Airbender, so it should be good. And unfortunately, I mean, that would be nice if that could be the case, that they love it so much that it'll be great. But unfortunately, that's just not how creating stories works. You could totally love something and still completely just botch it.
100%.
M. Night Shyamalan was a huge fan. Look at that coming out.
I mean, even if it's true, I mean, they can just say they're fans and not be, apart from anything else. So it doesn't help on that level,
right?
I want this to be Lord of the Rings. I don't want us to be Rings of Power. It is more.
That's a good.
That's the adaptation line for me. You can throw all the money and attention and care in the world into it, and if this writing's bad, if the characters out there, if the leap from animation to live action hasn't been executed with enough care and attention, it will. Other people will go, "Oh, that's pretty cool," but who cares? And everyone who loves Avatar already is going to look at it and go, "That's not Avatar." And so why does it exist? That's my.
We should have seen something like an image, even.
We should have seen something exactly,
like their costumes or whatever. Unless they are really just trying to like do some.
Do we even know why the original creators were kicked off or left? Yeah, have we ever had any clarity on why they were removed or why they left?
Well, they just said it was,
I think.
Right,
and I think that's not a good sign, then, is it?
I feel like the real reason was because they got in contact with Paramount. Like, it kind of just gave them a platform to be able to like say, look at how successful Avatar is. Like, Paramount, now come and give us Avatar Studios.
They leveraged it. Like, they were like, oh, hey, we come pick us up for what we really want, which is our animated stuff.
Right.
Risky play though, because they're putting themselves at like parallel with Netflix released them. They're having two like side by side creations.
Yeah, because you need, like you were saying, if it doesn't do well, it can exactly, because it doesn't do well, then you can sync it. Which is why I think they were very quiet about why they left, because they didn't. If you read between the lines, it seemed like there was
creative tensions,
but they aren't, like, since they've said that, like, what was that, maybe 3 years ago or 2 years ago, they have not talked about it at all. Like, like they've absolutely just said nothing, not engaging with it at all. So yeah, that could be their way of being like, okay, cool, let that hopefully be okay.
Haven't they talked about it recently though? Like,
aren't they?
Isn't there something like where they're saying that they're gonna start working together again or something, or that they I don't know.
Yeah. So the thing is that, well, it's not them directly, but that Avatar Studios is working with Netflix. So they are using stuff from the new material that is coming out, even stuff that's not released, could show up in the show. So they are working in concert on the executive level. It just seems like maybe Mike and Bride had an issue with like the creative director at Netflix or something like that. That's the thing too. These things are such big moving machines that it could have just been like a squabble they had with
one
someone.
Cog, just not.
Just one little cog that they had an issue with that wasn't budging. So like, all right, we're out. But that cog could still be okay. Maybe they knew that they had to remove themselves from it. I don't know. There could be a lot of moving parts, but I mean, yes.
We won't
There's
know
enough
until
there to be
it's released.
skeptical.
And yeah, exactly. So we won't know until it's released, and we just have to remain hopeful if that's just your inclination. And
Right, there's enough to be skeptical, but like, yeah, it's a little bit scary. But yeah, sorry. Moving on from just the Netflix stuff, we also have the adult gang movie is supposed to be coming out in 2025. This is like the timeline. So we have 2023 Airbender. Netflix should, if they get renewed, should be continuing into 2025. Then we're gonna have the new Avatar series, Zuko movie, and then we have what is called a spin-off animated series, which doesn't seem to be related to what we heard from before, which is that the Kyoshi and Korra thing could be either a movie or a series. We weren't sure. I would love it if Kyoshi was a series, but it might just be a standalone movie. And it seems like that's what they want to do, is like a standalone movie and then like a series kind of a thing. But what do you guys think that could possibly be, knowing that we would already at that point have the Avatar series would already be underway, the Zuko movie would already be out, and the adult gang movie would already out? What would a spin-off series potentially be for animation in particular?
I mean, it could be anything really. I can't think of anything in particular that would obviously be or likely be. I think it just, this particular space, given that all of the information they've given of everything else, I think this is probably where they'll be the most creative, personally, and kind of go somewhere new.
Because it could be anything. Like, I mean, or I wonder if they're waiting to even say what that spin-off is, because they don't even know what is going to hit, what's going to stick them to the wall, because that's a lot of years, right? It's 2026 is when that's supposed to...
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they have any idea what it's going to be right now. They'll have options, and they'll kind of gauge the spaces that they can play with depending on the successes of the projects coming up more immediately. But I don't know beyond that. Too soon to say.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of getting to the point where like we have so many projects upcoming like that are animated that I kind of want to see them get played out before we start exploring like completely new things.
Or even what it's going to look like. Like, that's the thing too. Like, because it's updated, right? It's 10 years after. What happened? I
just saw the comment. Somehow, Fire Lord Ozai has returned. Somehow, the Fire Nation attacked again. Oh, God.
But yeah, now, what do you think that series could be? The one that's not determined, even rumored yet?
Here's an idea. I've always wanted to see like an Iroh spin-off, like an Iroh prequel.
Oh,
where he's like fighting
that
in,
would get
like,
people
the 600 days, the 600 day siege of Ba Sing Se.
Yeah,
kind of like maybe exploring like how he finds out his son dies, and like how he goes from warmongerer to like peaceful, wholesome uncle. That'd be kind of cool. I think. I don't know.
That would be cool. I know that the core fan base would love that. It would just be, I think, a harder sell for the grander fan base. But I mean, even the thing is, once you come into the fandom of Avatar, I feel like you automatically like are down for Iroh. So like once that happens, once they are big and popping, like I think everybody would want that.
I feel like even people outside the Avatar fandom are kind of like on the Iroh train, because he's if you see like the memes and stuff, he's like the de facto wholesome character.
Even people who haven't even seen it. Oh, see, I'm not. I don't know memes as much as you do, but that's actually really cool.
There are certain characters that just transcend any series they're in. You know,
like Vader, Vader.
There are some people that just everyone knows about.
I know that about Iroh. So my perception of Iroh and most Avatar characters is that they didn't transcend that, because I feel like people who like Avatar really, really like it. But for some reason, I feel like you're saying, like your mom doesn't really know about it. My dad doesn't really know about it. My girlfriend doesn't really know about it. You know, like
it's an animated show. It's an animated show from 10 years
and that
ago.
could be it, right? The animated part, right?
It's in that domain that most mainstream people are just completely oblivious to. And that's it. You got to remember, it was just this thing that happened years ago, and then it got released on Netflix, and suddenly everyone was talking about it like it's this new thing again. That's the reason. It's because a bunch of mainstream people who had never watched it before, who had missed it growing up, suddenly were exposed to it. And
also, they were all stuck at home, so that helped too.
And that as well, yeah.
That was like the perfect time.
Timing was perfect. Timing was
so perfect.
But just the principle of having had it pushed into their face, that, oh, what's this? Click. You know, that alone.
Right.
and that was only the people who were inclined to watch animation anyway that had missed it previously. Like, if it had been live action, my mum might have accidentally stumbled into it and probably would have gone, it's all right, So unless this is really good, this could be The Last of Us, this could be Game of Thrones, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it can be really, really good, the Netflix live action. My only hope, and I think it's like the more practical hope, is that it's just okay.
Yeah. I think if it's
okay,
good, that's a miracle as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, like
we don't need it.
A step above mid. It has to just be a step above mid, and then it'll be all right.
We're happy with the animated series. We don't need a great, amazing thing. If it's just good, then great. It onboards people into the franchise. If it's terrible, it's done damage to the franchise. It's one of those.
Oh, and that's true too. Like some people came in during Korra time period. So like Lauren, for instance, didn't come until Korra came out. So each time there's like a new thing, there's a back catalog, there's a backlist that people can look into.
Yeah. Another issue with the fractured canons, by the way, when that happens and it's not clear and concise and controlled, then people can't properly absorb the rest of the previous material, and that also creates subset communities. So.
Marvel's kind of going through that right now.
Yeah,
you have a fissure kind of happening. Yeah,
why they're trying to make the comics the films, which is a bad idea in my opinion. But
but I think that's. I mean, yeah. Let me see. We went through Zuko. We talked about the Zuko stuff, the timeline, potential for Earth Avatar, and it might have been teased in this random video game that probably not many people are going to be getting into. The collaboration between Avatar Studios and Netflix, how that might bode well for stuff going forward. And then in hearing that story, to add on that, the reason I like that story in particular, because it sounded like, oh, okay, so if they are mixing and matching, or at least like having a conversation between like the executives like that, maybe that's another, I can put that in drop that in the, hey, this might be good, bowl. That makes me sort of like, okay, maybe they're okay with it because they're like, oh, this is decent enough that we'll give you some of this information.
Yeah, well, it's definitely better for them to collaborate than not.
Right. Because they both like the success of one is going to feed into the other. Like you don't want one or the other to fail, because then they all crumble together, kind of. Mm-hmm. But do you see that? Like, let's say worst case scenario. Let's say like the Netflix thing is like Cowboy Bebop, and it's just like really, really, or what's that other one? The Wix show that people talked about that was poorly adapted. Was it called Wix or the Winx?
Winx Club,
the fairies. Winx Club. Yeah. If it's that bad, do you think that will affect? I don't think so, because the first thing is a movie of the adult gang. I think it still can survive.
Yeah,
and it's animated. I think it won't be a benefit to it, obviously, but I don't know if it'll kill it, only because that first movie is going to be the adult gang.
Yeah, I think we'll just end up kind of in a space where we were when Legend of Korra was like first coming out in like 2012.
Initial time, yeah.
Where it felt like it was like, because that was like almost right after like the abysmal failure of M. Night Shyamalan. And I can't imagine it ever being like that bad.
I mean, how could it be? How could it be?
I don't know.
If Avatar survived that, then if it can survive M. Night, then it should be able to survive this Netflix thing,
right?
Which should, at bare minimum, be better than the movie.
Yeah, it has to be. It shouldn't have been that bad in the first place. That was an impossibly bad film. The pebble of the rock flying across the screen as 9 Earthbenders just do their ridiculous thing. That is an impossibility in my mind. How that ever happened, I have no idea.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's 2010, and then Korra came out 2 years later. Yeah. It was alright. It was fine. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's everything. Unless you guys, was there anything that you guys are looking forward to, and then like the next month that you guys are like, oh, I hope to see this, or whatever it might be.
Nope. Nothing for me at the moment.
Let me see a trailer. Let me see a poster. Let me see
a trailer. Something
is actually real.
Yeah, that would be huge. Like anything. Like at this point, like I'm just really shocked there hasn't been even like a photo. Like just put a photo out of everybody in their costumes. Like how is that? Like, okay. Best case scenario of them not putting things out would be one, they don't want to interact with the blue avatar,
which is fair.
Well, yeah, which is fair. That, and I actually can understand that, from a marketing standpoint. 2, could be because they have this like crazy marketing plan of just we're just gonna but usually when people blitz marketing like that, it's bad. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I
usually
know. Apart from anything else, they're not giving
blitz
they're not giving
marketing.
people enough time to get excited, not giving enough time for the news to circulate in the mainstream. You know, even if this releases as a phenomenal masterpiece, which it won't, let's face it, on the first episode, most people won't watch the first episode because they won't have a clue what's happening. They won't even know it's coming out. Except for us, who are fans of Avatar already, they don't have to worry about us. You know, we're going to watch the first episode, rain or shine. So I can't see the benefit of this unless they're panicking and worried that it's not going to be good. You know.
Okay, so Cowboy Bebop came out in 2021. When was its first trailer put out?
About a year before that, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and most times Netflix will.
By the way, another example.
a
The
year
trailer
in
was
advance.
phenomenal. The trailer was phenomenal. The style they
Oh yeah,
used
for Cowboy Bebop, yeah, it was.
But what a waste! The way they did that was pretty unique, and they used it on that show. I would wish that should have been like a timeless classic. That style of advert and trailer and stuff. It's used on something that was actually decent. It was a crime that got wasted on the live action Bebop.
Yeah, well, I think the marketing is like they can stretch it with the marketing. It could be really, really bad, but they can twist it and make it look really good. I think
it was really well done.
Yeah, so I think that's probably, if they're in that space, then I don't know if there's even going to be anything that we can like definitively point at and to say like, oh no, this is, I think that they're going to be pretty careful about what they show because they know how much pressure there is.
Yeah, Netflix in particular, they usually announce their stuff pretty early, like when they tease stuff. Like, at least a year in advance.
Live action Avatar like 2019, something like that. Like it was a while ago. Like they announced it before they even had like writers or directors attached to it.
It was pre-pandemic.
Just
because
wild.
The news coming out about it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'm not.
Good luck, Netflix.
I'm not optimistic about any of it. It's the quality of Avatar for what it was when it first came out and what it was supposed to be was so up there. Even if everything after it is great, for example, the Kyoshi novels, fantastic books, and I hope that's what we get more of. That quality,
right? Yeah, that type.
that
Exactly.
love. Even if everything else is terrible, if they just give us good characters to have fun with in the world that we love, great. That's all we need. But I don't think we can reasonably expect more than that at peak. Apart from anything else, the world is pretty small scale compared to other fandoms out there.
Yeah, and it's a little bit easier, I feel like, to make stories for it because you have the Avatar time periods that you segment, right? Yeah,
you could just go backwards and tell 100 different Avatar stories. Realistically, you could do that if you wanted to. And
I've been saying, actually, I don't know if I actually mentioned this to you, Ken. I've been mentioning other people, but I'm like, I want a KOTOR in Avatar. In the sense that you go back to like in the middle of the time period. Yeah, just in the middle. Like if you don't want to mess too much with the beginning of the timeline, that's fine. If you don't want to mess with the ending, that's fine. So you can have your own, like create your own Avatar sort of story legend like you did with Revan. Sorry, KOTOR is Knights of the Old Republic Star Wars game that came out in like 2005. No, 2003, I think, the first one. Yeah. And it went thousands of years in the past for Star Wars, and you were able to create your own character and make your own story, and they, spawned the Old Republic and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like give me that, please. like I would love it. Like there's so much, and that's why I get so disappointed. I feel like when we get some of these video games or we get some of these announcements, is that there just seems like it's an easy thing, like Avatar is like to expand on and to make great
and expand carefully and slowly. You could just do a book for each character, each Avatar, each whatever you want to do it slowly as you go through the years, and you can spin it forever. And that's why I was excited when the Kyoshi novels came out, because it felt like they were going to be careful with the time frame they were working with, careful with the pacing of the characters, not rushing out content like Disney are with Star Wars, for example. You can't do that with Avatar. It's not a big enough world. You will cram it full and drown it and saturate any possible new plots, new themes, new character style. It will just drown them in its own scale.
Do you think one series and one movie a year is too much? That's their current slate. Is that they're going to do one movie and one series every year?
Far too much. They won't be able to do it. It's not sustainable. If they don't, unless they're rehashing previous material or filling in past lives, which would be better done in books, in my opinion. Because authors tend to put more care and attention to that kind of thing in general. That's a generalization. I don't think they'll be able to sustain it. Apart from anything else, how many stories do you want to hear about Azula? How many stories do you want to hear about Zuko? Once they've done this film, what's the new story you want to hear about Zuko's life that isn't just, oh, cool, this is like a slice of life.
Especially when they had such a good story. Like, Zuko had such a perfect arc already.
Exactly.
What more?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The missing piece was his mother, which they ballsed up. So
Right, because it is in the comics, and they said we're not going to be
and
adapting
not many
that.
people enjoyed it that much. So this is the problem. You had the question of why are you telling the story needs to be asked, and most of the time there are exceptions, but most of the time the answer is because we want to make money, and that's basically it. You can find a sweet spot in there where you could also create creative masterpieces, but I think that the amount of times you can achieve that in a world like Avatar is limited. Kyoshi was for me a miracle, and I don't think it was that amazing despite that. So I have my fingers crossed for this new material, but I really don't think it's going to be brilliant. And if it is, I don't think they can sustain it.
Right, not in the same way that like a Marvel, because that's what these streaming companies in particular want. They're after like these franchisey type.
Exactly,
type
yeah.
things.
They're all
They all
trying
want
to
to be like Marvel. Yeah.
But the MCU is very carefully controlled. They planned phases out years in advance. That's the exact example of what you need to do. You need to be careful with your pacing, with your rising climax. Let's settle down, just do some filler films. Let's build up more characters. Let's change the ideas we're playing with. Let's go small scale. You have to control it. And I haven't seen anything from the franchise in Avatar yet that.
Well, there could be a hope for that because of how long it's taking them to actually come out with stuff. Because they initially announced that Avatar will be back. Whether we're talking about Netflix or just talking about like the animated stuff and all the new stuff for a while. Like we've been knowing this for a while, and that's what some fans are like. They did it too early. They announced it too early. But then at the same time, you feel like, well, hey, maybe they are literally taking their time.
Exactly.
And
then
I
also
hope
to be proven wrong. I really do. I want it to be amazing. I want it to be amazing. I want it to be another Kyoshi, and I haven't read Yang Chen, but I'm assuming it's good. One of those.
I think you might like it. I think it might be up your alley. It just was not for me. Like definitely, I preferred Kyoshi. A lot more. But yeah, that will wrap things up. Thank you all for joining me. Matt, can you go ahead and plug yourself? Tell people where people can find more of your stuffs.
YouTube.com/MattCMG, Twitch.tv/MattCMGYT. I'm actually going live shortly after this.
What you playing?
I don't know.
You just do random stuff.
Twitter.com/Matt at MattCMGYT on Twitter. I post banger tweets. That's about it. So that's all I got.
Callie, where can people find more of your stuff?
Finalis' channel on YouTube. That's pretty much it. We make reasonable content very slowly. I hope you enjoy it.
Brady, what about you?
You can find me on YouTube at Brady or at Avatar_Brady. I make short videos, or on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same at Avatar_Brady.
Awesome. And you guys know me. I'm Antoine. Thank you guys for being around and everything. And as always, peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.
Goodbye.
Bye.